Hey, good looking. Welcome to the Jack Slack Mystery Hour. So called because we're a day out from the fights and we still have no fucking clue what's going on. I thought the main event of UFC Waterson versus Jacek was off because Joanna Jacek announced about 2 days out that she's never going to be able to make weight, and Michelle Waterson said, well, if she's not making weight, I'm not fighting her. And then on the subject of taking a replacement fight, Michelle Waterson was, rightly so, no, I won't. But then after saying that, the day after saying that, every woman in the division did that fucking PR move where you go, hey, I hear you're looking for a fight. You know, half the guys who say it have no intention of taking the fight and are nowhere near the weight. For every, Gilbert Burns coming in at short notice or Donald Cerrone, you've got a load of people who just hey, I heard you're looking for a fight, when actually they're 30 pounds overweight. But that wasn't the end of it. Apparently, it's still going ahead. They're going to do the weigh-ins, even though Joanna said she's not going to make weight, and Waterson said that she's not going to fight her. So I have no idea what's going on. So I've been holding off on this podcast because I was I've not a fucking clue. Still no indication at the time of recording. And then it gets worse because the big events this weekend are One and Rising in the UFC. The UFC one's already been thrown into turmoil. One are having two events, 1 Century, Part 1 and Part 2. Big events. 6 title fights or something across the two of them. And they're going on in Tokyo. And Tokyo's currently in the middle of a hurricane warning, and the trains aren't going to run and stuff like that. So we don't even know if that's going ahead. And luckily, Rising are in Osaka, and I don't think Osaka is actually in the path of any hurricanes or anything like that. So they might get off scot-free. So we're going to talk about all of them. But if you listen to this, an hour after it comes out, this might well just be hypothetical matchups for the future because they're not happening now. So that's where we're at. Just take everything on this episode with a grain of salt, or with more salt than you normally take everything I say with. What's in the news? On the subject of salt, King Mo's returning. He's breaking his retirement. I didn't even know he'd retired. I'd completely missed that one, but he's going to take another match with Bellator. Fucking whatever. Bellator formally announced Rampage versus Phaidor. They're taking Rising's December 29th event in Tokyo. Got into a number of arguments about this because it is a shit event. Some dipshit on Reddit, I know you love my Reddit beefs, but some dipshit on Reddit was telling me this is the UFC puts on 500 fights a year, and this is better than more than half of them. And then he complained about the heavyweight fights the other day, and I shit on every heavyweight fight, but he was like, you think Sergey Spivak could beat these guys? And I was like, yes, Sergey Spivak would beat both these guys in the same night, and is also only 24 years old, so he's still got a good chance of getting significantly better. I don't want to see 40-year-old dudes, one of whom has no chin. And then Rampage, I was joking in the week because 50 Cent was putting out things saying me and Quentin Jackson are going to have a fight. And I was like, with the money from that, he could retire and just eat frosting for the rest of his life, like he clearly wants to. Because the whole thing is I say this every time, but we've all had things like friends' weddings and things like that, where we've turned up and then we've seen the photos afterwards and we've gone, fucking hell, I didn't look great for that. But you carrying a little bit of extra weight has never forced your company to open up a new weight division, which is what Quentin Jackson did. He was too fat. He refused to make weight. Scott Coker is trying to pay him 6 figures a fight to not eat himself to death. And this was my plan this week because George Lockhart and Mike Dolce are going back and forth again on bro science. And it's great because, as someone pointed out to me on Facebook, if the nutrition stuff was an absolute science, there wouldn't be anything to argue about. So really, they're just dealing in bro science, both of them. Are we all clear that nutritionist generally, because it's not a protected term, dietitian is the protected term, at least in the UK, generally, when people have nutritionist, it means you hook up as an athlete a lot of the time. But I was thinking one way we could get them back together and make them friends is if I organise some kind of squad to stop Quentin Jackson eating himself to death. It's going to be like Suicide Squad, and I'm going to write a script. And it's coming together well. I'm just going to have Malky Kawa or whoever it is that's Rampage's manager being like, Paige, please stop eating the food. Scott Coker wants you to come back at light heavyweight. And Paige being like, nah, man, not going to do that. I'm going to keep eating cupcakes all day and fight at heavyweight. Then Malky can be like, but he'll say he'll get Dolce. And then Rampage can cut him off and be like, bro, if the next words out of your mouth aren't Deleche, shut the fuck up. So anyway, they put up this photo hyping the fight of both men. Well, Phaidor's always looked bad, but clearly the Quentin Jackson photo is from like 2012, maybe. And then they show them at the press conference the next day, and they have a stare down, and it looks like Quentin Jackson is standing about a foot closer to the camera than Phaidor, because he is gigantic. He's dummy thick, and it's ridiculous. And the best part is, because it's Bellator, all the old guys turn up with six-packs on the front of their gut. Don't know why. Probably a roid thing. But like Mir, Rampage, everyone except Phaidor, basically. So that's going off, and it looks like shit, is the summary there. And then Nina Ansaroff's taking some time off to try and get pregnant. Good on her. Mrs. Amanda Nunes, if you couldn't work out who I meant then. And some other wank happened. But that's not really interesting. Let's talk about these fucking fights, because I'm hoping they go off. Because I was saying earlier this week how excited I am for all these fights. So let's first look at this UFC card. We'll pretend that Waterson versus Jacek is still going ahead, or Waterson versus Joanna, as we are on the poster, because I can spell fucking Jacek. Including me, I used to put in Jeddahs as a placeholder in articles, and then I'd go and find and replace all of them at once. Okay, so there's some good stuff on here. JJ Aldrich versus Lauren Mueller, Marvin Vittori, he of complaining that he was eye-poked when he wasn't against Andrew Sanchez. Chito Vera's back. Marlon Vera is fighting Andre Ewell. That's very low down the card, especially when you consider what a great little run Chito Vera's on. He's when was the last time he lost? So he's going back to like the end of 2018. He's doing well, and he's on a 4-fight finishing streak too, which is never a bad thing. I was going to say impressive for bantamweight, but no, bantamweight for some reason there are hundreds of finishes. Flyweight there are no finishes. He's beaten Wuji Buren, Guido Canetti. These sound like names from Punch-Out, if I'm honest. Piston Honda, Soda Popinski. He's beaten Frankie Sains was the important one that I remember, and then he's just beaten Nohaline Hernandez, who replaced Sean O'Malley because Sean O'Malley can't get off the drugs, man. Yeah, Chito Vera, I'm always excited to see, so that sounds good. Max Griffin's on the card. He's always interesting, sort of middle of the pack, welterweight. Thomas Gifford's fighting. Now, see, Thomas Gifford's opponent dropped out, and they were talking about having Gilbert Burns step in, and I was just like, that's ridiculous, because Gilbert Burns would kill this guy. But he's also 155, so that's a pretty quick turnaround for Gilbert from welterweight, where he was not looking small. But they got Thomas Gifford in against Mike Davis. Fair enough, whatevs. Oh, Eric Anders versus Gerald Meerschaert. Now, that'll be a good one, because Eric Anders stops a good takedown. Gerald Meerschaert really doesn't have anything on the feet. So in terms of people who are going to murder Eric Anders, because Eric Anders has taken some horrible beatings lately, Gerald Meerschaert is probably like low on the pile of people who's going to like take years off his life. I could see Gerald Meerschaert submitting him, but probably not knocking him out. Gerald Meerschaert's last fight, he basically like let the guy pass his guard and then tried to sweep him. It was proper weird. It was like watching Gordon Ryan just lay down flat and letting people mount him so that he can try and leg lock them. You got Luis Pena returning against Matt Frivola. How good's Frivola? I mean, they've got the same record, basically, but Jaden... Oh, I saw him beat Jaden Turner. And he lost to Polo Hayes before that. It'll be a fun enough fight. Luis Pena's last fight was depressing as fuck, because they got Matt Wyman back. And he just looked like someone who was too old to fight and hadn't fought in a long time, and they put him in with, like, their young up-and-comer. And Pena just murdered him. But it seems pretty apparent that Pena's like the UFC's boy. They want him to do well. So, yeah, expect him to win that one. Mckenzie Dern is fighting Amanda Rebus. Rebus isn't bad. And Mckenzie Dern, the whole thing is like, will she make weight? Because, like, no one... I mean, her last fight wasn't super impressive, but generally, there's not been much to fault with the grappling and the actual performance in the cage. It's mainly that she just seems really fucking unprofessional and comes in like 6-7 pounds overweight. But she just had a baby and seemed to use the booking of the fight as a chance to get the baby weight off, or motivation to get the baby weight off. I mean, she's looking like trim on the Instagram stuff that people definitely send me. I don't look up. But she's looking like she'll make weight, so fair enough. Okay, now we're into interesting fights that I'll actually talk about at length. James Vick versus Nico Price. I mean, basically, that's about the level you expect James Vick to be competing well at. Plus, he's gone up to welterweight, which is a good shout for him because he looked ridiculous at lightweight. There's being able to make, there's doing a big weight cut and being the biggest man in the ring. And then there's doing a weight cut so severe that you're like completely out of place in that weight class. And, he's never really had the tools to deal with guys getting inside on him. Gets very crowded because he's, so tall and fights so tall, like doesn't fight from a nice low stance and keep his shoulder level with the opponent's head. He's up in the air, chin straight up. So he's always been a sucker for an overhand. Gaethje starched him with an overhand. Dan Hooker starched him with a hook off the jab? And Paul Felder just sort of made a meal out of that fight because Paul Felder really struggles to change his game plan. Nico Price, meanwhile, just fallen short of making the top, the elite of welterweight. He lost to Vicente Luque. I think that was his first loss back in 2017. Put a couple together, lost. Put another one, lost. It's just, he's good but inconsistent. His striking's super weird because I think it was him that I said this about. He's kind of like Bob Sapp. He's got a frame that's too wide to punch properly. His shoulders they look too wide, and when he turns his hips, it doesn't look proper. I don't know what it is. I'm not able to fix that for him. I'm just saying it looks fucking weird when he throws punches. He's always game. He had a good fight with Tim Means. He was actually getting lit up in that Means fight, I thought, and gutted his way through to knock Means out. But the thing is, when he loses, he tends to lose badly. The Vicente Luque fight got darsed. Al Hassan starched him in under a minute, and that one was proper brutal. And then Jeff Neal pounded him out in the second round. He tends to implode. He doesn't just hang in there and lose the decision. But then, like I said, he stayed in there against Means in a tough fight and gutted it out. Price is a very fun fighter, I'll say that, and he brings excitement. And I think his sort of wild, aggressive game style is the sort of style you probably want to bring in against James Vick, because James Vick, your whole thing is you should crowd him. Just keep moving in on him, making him uncomfortable. But Beneil Dariush did a really good job against James Vick, actually, back in the day. He basically, anytime Vick kicked, Dariush would enter after the kick and then hammer him in the face for free. And I think, I can't remember if Dariush won that fight. Let me check. Yeah, no, he knocked him out in the first round. But he just, that really hammered home that once you're inside his arms, unless he hits you with that uppercut or maybe a weird Dan Hooker knee, but he doesn't throw him like Dan Hooker timing people coming in. He looks for that weird uppercut. But even if you go for the weird uppercut, you're still a sucker for the overhand. He's got real problems if guys stand too close to him. Don't stand so close to him, is what I'm saying. You know what? The more I look at this card, the more I'm like, yeah, it's not bad, actually. Co-main is Cub Swanson versus Kron Gracie. Really quite like this. Cub, obviously, there's no pretending he's not on the arse end of his career now. He was going life and death with Kawajiri a little while ago, and Kawajiri is thoroughly washed. Well, we'll talk about Kawajiri later, but what's Cub? Yeah, oh, fucking hell, Cub's on a 4-fight losing streak. So, anyone else, if they were less exciting and less beloved, they'd be gone by now. He'd be off being Bellator champion, is what he'd be doing. But, lost to Ortega, lost to Edgar by decision, lost to Renato Moicano by rear naked choke, and then lost to Shane Burgos by split decision. But I thought it was a bit more decisive than that. I wouldn't have scored it for Cub at all. Actually, when's Shane Burgos fighting again? Love that lad. I think that's one of the things that I'm really noticing about Cub too, is that he's looking small in this division. He used to look small when he was fighting guys like Lamas, but when you consider if you watch Shane Burgos and Calvin Kattar against each other, you're like, oh cool, yeah, featherweights. And then you watch Shane Burgos against Cub Swanson, and you're like, fucking hell, Cub Swanson's tiny. I was actually looking through some old Cub Swanson stuff to put together a little I don't know, not even a Filthy Casuals guide, but just a little thing of weird shit that Cub Swanson does. He does a few things that I really like, and not all of them are good technique per se. You know, a couple of them are just weird, but I like him. You know, he uses a guillotine to put in a butterfly hook on the same side as the guillotine, and then hit a technical stand up quite a lot. And if you watch him against Ricardo Lamas, he's doing that and gets caught in the arm triangle doing it, trying to stand up. But then you watch Ricardo Lamas, and he sort of took that and has made his own sort of like method of standing up off the guillotine from it. That one where he has like the wrong side knee shield almost, or basically the wrong side butterfly hook. And the other weird one that he was always using like kicks to the shin and the calf before that was popular, but he does this thing where he steps in with like a left hook and steps up into a left round kick on the same side, and it's proper weird. He'll kick the back leg or the body with it, or even the head sometimes. But yeah, one of my boys, loved Cub forever. Just a really entertaining fighter. He's really past it now. But Kron Gracie, you know, he really coming up as one of these fighters that people love because they're sort of one-dimensional or weird. You know, we love a weird fighter. Like part of the best performing Filthy Casuals guide I've ever done was the Ryan Hall one, which got like 500,000 views. And that was mainly after the fight because they didn't put any hype on him before the fight. But like people went, that's fucking weird, and either you loved it or you hated it. But people were like, wow, that's a weird way of fighting. I'm gonna go look into that more. You know, it's the same reason Damian Maia, people either love or hate him, but you know they were interested in him certainly. So I think that's where you're going with Kron Gracie. You know, he's probably not going to ever get good striking. He looked bad against Alex Caceres in the few moments on the feet in that. But he's a very, very entertaining grappler and very, very good grappler. You know, he's especially no gi. You know, it's very difficult to be an elite world-class jiu-jitsu player and then apply it in MMA. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. But he won Abu Dhabi 1 year, did really well another year, but lost to Marcelo in like the semi-finals. He's been doing some like cool back takes and stuff. His back take against Jiri was like an under-wrap back take from closed guard. And he's happy to jump guard on people. I think this is the thing, like, Cub Swanson is probably good enough that if you jump guard on him, you know, that's not going to work. And if you have shitty takedowns, it's probably not going to work. So we're going to have to see Kron at least use some kind of clever takedown or more systematic takedown. You know, like Damian Maia, push him to the fence, try and bring him off the fence, try and hop on their back, that sort of stuff. And then if Kron wins, expect a dummy post-fight interview because he is... I mean, he's a bit of a hunk, but he's such a dumb hunk. He thinks the world's flat. He's like a vegan, but he eats fish, but he eats sushi every day because he believes it's more sustainable than meat. Not understanding how fishing works at all, particularly of tuna, but a wonderful, wonderful fighter nonetheless. And then you've got Jędrzejczyk versus Waterson. If it goes ahead, we're in this weird period of like another Waterson push. You know, they've tried it before. Invicta were like all in on the Waterson brand, and then they tried to match her up against some like unknown lass called what was her name, Tiburcio. Having like they had her beat the snot out of a 46-year-old Japanese woman, and they were aware of how bad that was because for all their pre-fight graphics, they included age, and then they changed it out with, like, leg length for their fight. And you're like, well, we can see that you know this is bullshit. So she beat the snot out of that lass after a really good fight with Jessica Penne, to be fair. But then she fought this lass, Herika Tiburcio, who, like, if you watched her fights before that, she wasn't great. And she wore, like, this big baggy swimming t-shirt. And then she came in and beat her. But then Tiburcio got stuck there and has gone, like, 2-2 since. Oh, and not fought since 2017. And Michelle Waterson, the UFC came around and they were like, you're hot. Do you want to join our division? So she did. I mean, she's fighting up in weight because she used to be like an atom weight. And that has always been impressive. And her like takedowns and ground game have always actually been impressive to me. But like a lot of her stand-up, she's got this reputation because she's like show karate, you know, like the stuff with the kids in the exhibition centres where they whip around a bow staff that weighs nothing and kiai rods. You know, that sort of stuff, like basically tricking in a gi. And that's what Waterson apparently came up doing. So she can do all these weird kicks and stuff, but they never land. And like nothing, they don't do anything. She was throwing him like constantly against Rose Namajunas and then just like came down with her foot inside of Namajunas and Namajunas kicked her head off. she wastes a lot of energy. But then, she fought Courtney Casey, got that split decision, and I thought she lost that one because she kept getting blasted with counterpunches. And then when she was on the ground, she'd hit like a takedown, and then Casey would start trying to submit her from guard and actually do more effective work from the guard. But she beat Felice Herrig, and then she beat Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who's a very strong strawweight. So not as a former atomweight, not bad work. Whereas Joanna Jędrzejczyk is on kind of a slump at the moment. But against much better names, if we're honest. Lost to Rose Namajunas twice because Rose Namajunas is a very tricky style for her. Beat Tisha Torres. Lost to Valentina Shevchenko, who is a very similar tricky style. If you don't go towards Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she kind of has trouble with that. So I suppose that is kind of interesting in this matchup because Michelle Waterson isn't going to be like in her face trying to beat her up. Michelle Waterson's probably going to be out doing flicky kicks at range, and then if she wants a takedown, she'll move in, but Jędrzejczyk has been very, very hard to take down. That's, all that work with ATT and stuff. So ultimately might not even happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Michelle Waterson did better than expected. I mean, if you include this horrific weight cut that's allegedly been going on, I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised if she did better than expected. I think Joanna has fed off aggression for much of her career, or rather her UFC run, and I think, I don't believe she's like washed, but I think she's starting to get these matchups that she had those like 3 really aggressive opponents in a row and a couple that just had no idea what they were doing, like Jessica Penne, and now she's getting kind of like awkward sit back fighters, and it's not going as well. So then you got 1 Century, which is the big one card going on in Tokyo. It's a 2-day card, 12th and the 13th, I think, but you've got like the final of the whatever weight tournament we're doing to get Demetrius Johnson get a belt, basically. And you've got the final of the lightweight Grand Prix, and you've got a couple of other title fights on there. I mean, there's some interesting stuff on here. What we got? Day 1, Yushin Okami. Fucking Yushin Okami. No one's going to watch Yushin Okami. Yuya Wakamatsu's back against Dai Hwan Kim. I thought Wakamatsu was pretty good when he fought Demetrius Johnson, but he was also doing some great stuff against Geiji Estequio in his last fight. Bouncing around, throwing like a long right hand, bouncing in really quick, and then going back on a straight line. And I was like, oh, you should probably look out on those exits. And then he knocked him out, and I was like, well, okay, well, that's the way you deal with that. You just knock him out, so you don't have to deal with the exit. But decent stuff. He's what's his name? Fucking Ryo Chonan, his top student. Who else you got on this? Well, Sam A's fighting in a Muay Thai bout against Darren Rowland. That'd be fun. Sam A's he's a legend of Muay Thai. Southpaw, wicked left kick. If you want to watch his fight with Haggerty, where Haggerty took him apart. That was fantastic. That's a shame Haggerty isn't on this card, actually, or the other one, actually, because Rod Tang's fighting. You could have done that rematch and people would have gone mental. But then we go into the final of the lightweight tournament, which has been basically cursed because Eddie Alvarez went out in the first round, got knocked out in the first round, was brought back in the second round because of an injury, and beat Edward Foliang, who was also like a last-minute entrant to the tournament. And now we're in the final, and basically, I believe Daggy was in the first round of the tournament. What's his name? Saigid Arslan Naliev. We call him Daggy because fucked if I can say his full name. But Daggy, I believe he was in the first round of the tournament. But Christian Lee is the replacement here. And Christian Lee's the champion. And the idea was that if you won the tournament, you got a shot at the title. So the title isn't on the line in the final of the tournament. And if Daggy wins, he gets to for the title. It's so convoluted and stupid. You should almost do what Bellator did, or Strikeforce, or the World Super Series. If the title holder, or if a title holder is in the tournament, put the title on the line in the tournament. The winner of the tournament should get all the belts anyway that were in the tournament. But weird situation. One thing I will say, look out for Olivier Coste. He will be reffing this, almost guaranteed. And he will let Christian Lee grab I believe we're in a cage for this one. He will let Christian Lee grab the cage whenever he wants to. And look out for that in the main event too. I bet Olivier Coste is referee for not all the fights, just Christian Lee and Angela Lee. And possibly Demetrius Johnson. Dude is shady beyond all belief, but that's one in a nutshell. Business Insider put out an article this week that was just a one press release, basically, all about the honour and how Conor McGregor wouldn't be a success in Asia. And you're like, Fucking hell, yes he would. Like, there's a reason that Floyd Mayweather's doing, like, or going to do an exhibition he did an exhibition against Tenshin Nasukawa for millions of dollars. Get eyes on that shit. If Conor McGregor did a fight in Asia tomorrow, it would be the biggest fight in Asia. You got Jeanette, I have no idea who these people are. Demetrius Johnson versus Danny Kingat. I'm not a fan of this because I thought Reece McLaren should have won the fight against Kingat in the last round. And to be honest, Demetrius Johnson fought a life and death battle with Tatsumitsu Wada in his last fight. And that was like, Tatsumitsu Wada impressed me a lot in that. Got him to the ropes early, got like a underhook and a basically head and arm control on one side, and then threw him past and got on his back. And, after that, people were like, a very clear decision for Demetrius Johnson. But these are the same people who, when their favourite fighter wins a shitty decision in one, they're like, I think you'll find it's about damage and who threatened the finish. And I don't think anyone came closer to the finish than Wada in that fight. God, there's so many good jokes. Well, there's only one good joke, but that's the closest Wada has come to one championship. I think it's pretty clear that Demetrius Johnson has sort of lost a step. But Danny Kingat, I just can't see him winning this one because he couldn't stop Reece McLaren from taking him down. His answer was to lose for 4 minutes of each 5-minute round and then turn into the guy and come up on a takedown attempt and hope that he won the round. And he did win the fight somehow, but it really, like, against a grappler of, a takedown artist and a guard passer and a top player of Demetrius Johnson's caliber, I just can't see that shit flying. But he's Team Leike, so, he could turn up incredible for some reason. Team Leike are the biggest mystery in MMA. I can't work them out. Well, we've got another Team Leike fight on the other part of this event, but the main event of the first day is Angela Lee versus Xiang Jing. Can't say her name, but you'll remember Xiang Jing for knocking Angela Lee out when Angela Lee was challenging for a second world title. Then Angela Lee, she took all of last year off because she was fighting for... Fucking hell, this is confusing. So Angela Lee has one of the belts, like one of the division's belts, either flyweight or strawweight, can't remember which. She took off in 2019 basically to fight Xiang Jing for a second belt. Lost by body kick and just getting beaten up for... Well, actually, no, it was a good scrap. She was grappling all over this girl, but Xiang Jing really gritted through it and was beating her up on the feet because Angela Lee's striking is garbage. But she lost that fight by knockout in the 5th round. And then she fought Michele Nicolini. Again, like, I think that was at flyweight or whatever. But she lost that fight too, and people argued all about it. But fucking Olivia Costa was in that fight, and he just let her, like, hammer fist Michele Nicolini in the back of the head as much as she wanted to. Fucking terrible ref. Michele Nicolini won that fight. So now Angela Lee is 0-2 for fights in 2019. Hasn't defended her strawweight title since, like... Well, it's saying that Mei Yamaguchi fight was at flyweight, so I've got no fucking idea what's going on with these belts. But basically, she's now defending the belt she does have against Xiang Jing, who was previously defending her belt against Angela Lee. It's so stupid. But basically, Xiang Jing is trying to become the first two-weight champion in one history or whatever. Oh, it's the dumbest shit. Really, really dumb. But their first fight was good fun, so watch it. Then on day 2, you've got... What have you got? Fun stuff. You got Georgia Petrosian and Sami Sana in the final of the kickboxing tournament. Georgia Petrosian shouldn't be there, but is. They had to go back and turn over the fight with Pech Morikot, and then give him the decision in the next one. Sami Sana upset Yodson Klai, and then I can't remember who he beat in the second round. Was it? Oh no, Smoking Joe Natawat was against. He beat Askarov. That's the one. And Petrosian beat Natawat. But they're desperate to get the belt on Petrosian, so look forward to that if it goes to the decision. Best part about one, decisions in kickboxing matches. They supposedly use the 10-point must-hit system, but they don't read it out. They don't read out the scores, so they can spend like fucking Michael Chiavello being like, they're taking extra time here to tabulate the scores. Like, that's not a thing. Why are the judges fucking talking to each other? Then, like, you're not allowed to score a draw, but they've announced multiple times that they've got a majority decision, not a split decision, a majority decision, which involves one person scoring a draw. So I think the thing is that one is like ADCC, where even the people organising it don't understand their own rules. And then they just go, Matt, tell us what to score the fight. And Matt Hume goes, is one of my guys fighting? It doesn't matter then. Then you got Rod Tang versus Walter Concalves. I've not seen any of Walter Concalves, but Rodtang is guaranteed excitement. The Iron Man of Muay Thai walks people down, beats them up. Great fight with Haggerty last time round. Then you got Bibiano Fernandez versus Kevin Bellignon 4. Can you believe it? This is a proper weird rivalry because Bibiano won the first fight easily. Then the second fight happened. Kevin Bellignon beat Bibiano Fernandez by jumping back kick to the body repeatedly for 5 rounds, and then getting taken down and waiting for Bibiano to do something and then bridging as hard as possible. And then the third fight, it was like Kevin Bellignon had no idea what he was doing. He got taken down by Bibiano, and then he got disqualified for elbows to the back of the head or something like that, which would never happen if, you were a Lee and Olivia Coste was reffing. But yeah, it just looked like he had no idea what he was doing again. And that mixes with Danny Kingad and people like that. All these Team Leke guys, they're famous for, having no real grappling training out there, but learning to wrestle and scramble and stuff so well that they can beat top grapplers like Shinya Aoki and Bibiano Fernandez. And then they just forget it the next fight. It's bizarre. It's like Edward Foliang beat Shinya Aoki and then forgot how to do it and just got arm triangled in a round the next time they fought. BB, the more I see of him, the more basic he looks. I think he suffers from being very overrated by people who want to make up for how little he's known. I think, he's very, very good and could compete in the UFC or whatever at bantamweight. But at the top end, his whole thing is, swing a few punches, grab a snatch single, or dive on a double leg. And I just, even guys like Cody Stamen, if you put him in with them, they see right through that. He benefits from fighting in a part of the world where the all-around level of MMA just isn't as good. And, of course, he benefits from the fact that his coach is the head judge. What else we got? Shinya Aoki versus Hilario Benario. That's probably feeding Shinya Aoki an easy win. I think Benario was Team Leke's first champion in 1, but he's lost 3 of his last 4. And he's had a very weird career anyway. In 2013, he lost 5 on the trot in 1. And then he won 5 on the trot in 1. What? What happened there? It just adds into the unpredictability of Team Leke. You have no idea what they're going to do. They are chaos, and I appreciate that. To be honest, I'm here for it. And then finally, the main event of that second day of 1 century is Ong Shang versus Brandon Vera. Just a couple of bangers. Going to get at it. I mean, Ong Shang, I've looked into him because I was like, I should do something about Ong Shang, but he's just a big hitter. That's all there is to it. He's not anything special, really. And Brandon Vera is a guy who went life and death with Shogun Rua at the age of 45. But I like Brandon Vera as a person. I'm glad he's doing well. But it really just shows that there's not any talent out there at heavyweight. And is Ong Shang, is he both the light heavyweight and middleweight champion? Is he going for a 3rd title here? Yeah, he's going for a 3rd title. Mind you, they've got Brandon Vera holding 2 titles on the poster. I'm so confused. There's too many belts in 1. Just know that it's on, and there's some good stuff on it. My picks for best fight would probably be Sana versus Petrosian, Rodtang versus anyone, and, really all the kickboxing. That's how I feel about 1. The kickboxing is the best part. But Daggy versus Christian Lee, that would be good. I mean, for all the flack I give Christian Lee, it's mainly because, 1, are so interested in making him the big thing. On his own, he's very, very good. So watching him against Daggy will be good fun. And then the last thing going on in this weekend is Rising 19 in Osaka. I think we're entering the death throes of Rising now. I wrote a piece last time being like, I love how they're getting attention on young Japanese stars, and then they give up one of their dates on the 29th. On their 2-day show, they gave up 1 date to Bellator to have that stupid Rampage Jackson versus Phaidor fight. And then, the main event of this one is Jiri Prochazka versus Fabio Maldonado. You're like, what the fuck is going on here, lads? Kai Asakura should have won the title in his last fight on the last Rising card, but didn't because it was a fucking non-title fight because Japan is stupid like that. So basically, Kai Asakura is fighting Ulka Sasaki. I think Ulka's coming off a loss too. In the co-main of this one, or the Japanese main, for no reason. He should be fighting Kyoji Horiguchi for the title, because they fucked it up the first time. And then you got Miyu Yamamoto versus Seohei Ham. Fun enough. I mean, Miyu's going to try and lay on her, and Seohei Ham's going to try and knock her out. You got Rina Kubota versus someone with no Wikipedia page. And Jiri Prochazka versus Fabio Maldonado. Fabio Maldonado is in the main event of a Rising card. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. And then on the undercard, you got some fun stuff. You got like Tiger's fighting some guy. Oh, he's fighting Teiju Shiratori. Hiroya's fighting on the undercard. Again, kickboxing matches. You know, I keep feeling like the best thing about this B tier MMA is the kickboxing that holds up the cards. But then you got the lightweight tournament, which will be fun to watch. That's all I really care about. You got Roberto de Souza, Satoshi versus Johnny Case. That'll be good. And then you got Tatsuya Kawajiri versus Patricky Frere. They put out this video package this week making Tatsuya Kawajiri look like the sad sack. You know, it was all like, my daughter says you only ever lose and things like that, and my wife is always there watching me lose and stuff. You know, that's a really heartfelt thing. But equally, Rising is still like, we invite Kawajiri back because it's an honour to perform in Rising. Like, their social media intern, the twat on Reddit, is just the dickiest dude. He was there trying to tell me that TK versus Mirko Krokop was a fight that made sense. I'm just like, shut the fuck up. You know, the Warrior Spirit stuff, I'm writing something about this for Battles of London at the moment. The Warrior Spirit stuff, the Bushido stuff, is bollocks. You know, the best texts on like Bushido era, you know, the actual era of that stuff are things like, I mean, the Hagakure is pretty good, but things like Book of Five Rings, and that's all about how, like, yeah, if I could stab him in the back, I'd stab him in the back, you know. I'll cut a guy's leg to make him fall down and then stab him in the neck afterwards. It's nothing to do with, like, honour and chivalry and bollocks like that. That was just, like, played up to make idiots go on planes and, you know, with half a tank of fuel and the knowledge that they wouldn't be able to get back. The whole Bushido thing in MMA, I just, like, every time someone says it, I'm like, you're just telling me you're an idiot. But yeah, that's how they're treating Kawajiri. They're doing this whole thing like, he's not picked up a win in however long, blah, blah, blah. And then they're putting him in with probably the best fighter in the tournament, so that Scott Coker's boy can get a knockout because he can't get knockouts in Bellator without losing. Yeah, very sad stuff. Fuck it. That's left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not talking about the rest of that Grand Prix. It sucks. I'll watch it, but it sucks. Yeah, let's call it a day there. Like I said, I'm in a bit of a weird place because I don't know how many of these are actually taking place. They're still talking about this hurricane warning and being like, maybe one century happens, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we move it out to Osaka or something, book a venue at the last minute. But there's some good fights. If they go off, there's some good fights. And hopefully, if they don't go off, they'll just save them for another time. This could be one's cop-out. You know, we've lost. We're over 150 million in the hole or whatever it is now. But it was that one event not going off. That's what I'm going to blame for this company just going under. Anyway, if you want to join the Patreon, I just put up a new audio essay called "Stick and Move: The Meaning of Angles," which is, you know, the article, the diagrams, and then I recorded the audio so you can listen to that at the same time as you read it. Doing multiple mediums now. I'm playing with this idea. So yeah, join up to the Patreon. Helps me do 2 podcasts a week and get cool extra stuff. If you want to send an email to the podcast, fightsgonbypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to see what I've written at any time, I just wrote a big piece on David Price versus Derek Chisora and the final of the World Boxing Super Series. Fightprimer.com. I'm your boy Jack Slack. Never mentioning Joanna and Jacek's boob implants because you just make everyone angry if you do, even if we're talking about making weight. Bless.